Hello, Sharif here. And one of these days, I'm going to get used to how um, this software opens our session. I keep expecting to have to push another button, and then I find myself staring at myself in the monitor, and there's this sign over my face saying, "You are live." Okay, so I'm live. Hope everyone is doing well who is attending this live. Also hope that those of you who are attending this via a recording are also doing well. Um, one little piece of technology here, and then we're going to do our meditation. I haven't mastered this whole thing yet. Okay, so I'm much better at this through the YouTube portal than I am through the LinkedIn or Facebook portals. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. Um, Therefore, if you want to really be up to date with me, and if you really want to get, you know, if you are if you are um, accessing this via recording, and you are wanting to communicate with me, you should be doing that through YouTube as opposed to Facebook or LinkedIn. Like I said, I'll get those up to speed soon, but that's just kind of where things are right now. This is going to be a really chock full 30 minutes here. So I want to go ahead and get started. And chock full meaning we're going to be envisioning our future with a little bit of help. And so let me get my timer out. And this is to make sure that, and there, I'm sure all of you have had the sensation of um, sinking into a meditation. Um, Getting to the point where time disappears or time becomes very fluid. And I'd love to do that with you, but right now I'm telling myself, I'm telling everybody, we're only going to be doing this preliminary part for a little bit. When we want to expand into something, let's say 45 minutes or an hour on a particular topic, you'll have plenty of advance notice that we're going to be doing that. Okay. But right now, I want us to get centered on yourself. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. These are not meant to be guided meditations. Let's call them encouraging meditations. So breathe as deeply as you feel comfortable. Let's take a deep breath together. It's an opportunity to feel relaxed, not anxious, not looking forward, just looking right where you are, right here, right now. So let's get prepared to come back to our center. relaxed and energized. And when you're ready, open your eyes and we'll begin. What I'm going to be doing today is introducing you to a key element of the new book, What the Baby Looks Like, Birthing the Nation of Gaia. For those of you who have done work with me, you know that one of the things that I like doing is showing the picture of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the place where the nation that occupies an inordinate amount of the world's resources and attention was born, where 50 guys got together and said, we can do this. We can rule ourselves better than the king can. And that audacious thought created, for good, for indifferent, and for evil, a nation that has dominated the world stage, that has reached a termination point. The caterpillar at its height turns into a butterfly. We, the imaginal cells in this butterfly, are needing to answer the question, what the baby looks like. We know what our problems look like. The news media is giving it to us all the time. They're also giving us solutions. These solutions are the solutions that you get when people who are in control and power want to stay in control and power. I'm suggesting that we come up with a different set of solutions, a different way of answering the question, what does the baby look like? And so, been writing this book, seems like forever. It's coming to an end. My target is now mid-June. And there are lots of elements of it that are either finished, or I'm about 85 to 95% finished, and I need to do some thinking about it. And you are going to help me do this thinking. We're going to explore together today and our next session on Wednesday, what this baby is going to look like over the next 1,000 years. And someone, well, more than someone said, it's fairly either audacious or insane for me to try to come up with a 1,000-year plan. And I'm saying the reason that we're in the shape that we're in right now is because we're not trying to do that. The reason that we're in the shape that we're in right now is that we seem to have a 0-year plan. The things that are plaguing our planet right now, and these are things that where we are, we shouldn't be where we are right now. Why is so much of the planet in economic turmoil? Why are so many nations on the verge of collapse? Why is so much political instability going on in our planet? And why are so many of us in this society not paying attention? People on the left and the right are simply not paying attention to the reality that we're facing right now. My goal, dream, etc., is to elevate this past all this divisive conflict. The real issues that are facing us right now on a planetary scale are things that we should not be dividing over. Things like, do you have enough food to eat? Things like, do you have enough water to drink, enough clean water to drink? Do you have enough security in your life? Are you or your children going to go to bed fearful for your lives? Now, the fact that that's not a reality for middle class Americans doesn't mean it's not a global reality. Even the way we approach things like the global climate crisis is, I can't go hiking in my favorite area, as opposed to, we don't have food to eat because of all of the things that are going on right now. I'm looking at the number of countries that are facing major financial ruin. I said this almost a year ago. Remember when I did the series that I was calling The Wave? What is it that's going to be catapulting us into a new reality? And I was saying that from where I sit, the wave is going to be an economic crisis. And I was saying that Sri Lanka was the leading edge of something. And most of the responses I got were kind of, oh, wow, yeah, that's interesting. It's yawn that's interesting until it hits you. Now, on the news today, yet another bank goes under. Yet another scramble to help the super rich depositors of that bank. Yet another protestation from our financial institution saying, oh, this is an isolated incident. Oh, the one before that, that was an isolated incident. The two before that, those are isolated incidents. And so when we get engulfed in isolated incidents, when we can't do what we need to do, it's time for us to look elsewhere. And looking elsewhere means that we are that we have to look not to the Fed, not to the International Monetary Fund, not to any of the tools of the caterpillar. We've got to start looking to ourselves, and not ourselves as individuals, but ourselves unleashing our holonic power. And do that in such a way that we start the process of 1,000 years from now, 100 years from now. We're doing pretty good. Not we, meaning Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and a few other scattered folks, but we as human beings on our planet. I'll say one more thing, and then I'm going to introduce you to a 1,000-year plan for the Earth. 22 years ago, I wrote and published Creating a World That Works for All. And at that time, I believed that notion, the idea that the world can work for all living beings, was going to be so startling and so literally magnificent that everybody would be talking about that. I mean, the Democrats would be saying, we're going to create a world that works for all. No, the conservatives, we're going to create a world that works for all. We were going to get caught up in, how do you do that? And what the majority of the world did at that point is say, oh, wow, that's a nice idea. Sure. Great for you, Sharif. One of the comments that I'd get, oh, I applaud you for your efforts. And I would say, why do you think this is my efforts? Aren't we on this planet together? And I found out the answer to that is no, we're not. Some of us don't think that we're on this planet at all. but I'm talking to all the rest of us. Okay. Um, so what I'm about to do is introduce you to, and let's see how I do this. Again, I got this panel of buttons down here. I got to make sure I push the right button. What I'm going to do is share with you um, um, an appendix to my book. And I think it worked. And the appendix is the next steps for humanity, or a 1,000-year plan for the earth. Let's see if I can square this up on my screen a little bit. As we go through this, and we're only going to go through the first 100 years or so, I want us to be thinking, is this a good step? Is this a step that we need to take? Number two, is this something that we are going to do in that particular order? Is this going to happen in year 10 or year 20 or year 50 or year 200? And number three, what's my role in this? Some of you are going to see one of these visions and say, wow, that one's mine. Some of you are going to say, yeah, that should be done, but I'm not feeling called to do something like that. So we're only going to go through the first 100 years. Now, and I'm going to give you, right after I finish this, I don't want to push too many buttons and screw things up here. So right after this, I'm going to give you a link where you can access this exact document that we're looking at right now. And I want to give this, you will have the opportunity to comment on this. I want to also give you a challenge. I challenge you to show this to up to 20 people. Not from the point of view of saying, oh, Sharif is so brilliant. He's come up with a 1,000-year plan for the earth. Why don't you get behind it? Well, if you want to, I'm taking applications. But let's think about this. Let's open the doors to thinking about how this works. So over the course of the next few minutes, let me introduce this to you. And let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger on the screen. This is to encourage you to open your own copy so that you can read it and make margin comments on it. So the first one is, how do we align our consciousness so that we all together, we living beings, can hold the energy of a world for all? How do we do that in such a way that all of us participate in the holonic consciousness that will make this happen? I can go into that for several hours, but I won't. So the 5-year plan is confronting what I call the big three: food, water, and energy. If we don't do those, you don't get to do the rest of them. Okay. And it's interesting how these are to me, our most important issues. And those are the things that we are spending so little time thinking about in terms of our future. we're toxifying our food, we're toxifying our water, and we're toxifying the energy in how we extract it. And everybody thinks that's okay. So our first job is how do we get away from that? Um, our 10-year plan, in 10 years, that's when we face the collapse. Now, when I'm looking out at the same indicators that everybody else is looking at, this could happen a lot sooner than 10 years. This could be 10 months from now, okay, where it really dawns on people that the systems that we rely on right now, the systems and structures that we rely on, are completely unreliable and that we've got to create something new. In 15 years, I'm talking about the end of breaker education and the ascendancy of holonic knowledge. That once we get connected to the holonic mind, we get our education directly from source. We may have institutions that help us to direct that, but we start paying attention to what's important and we stop paying attention to what's unimportant. And I got stories there too. We end our toxic relationships with the world. The idea that we would put toxic chemicals in our food and on our soil, we just stopped doing that within 20. We stopped producing them. It doesn't matter how many people lose their fortunes by doing that, just not toxifying ourselves, our bodies, etc. Look at all of the things that start settling down once we do that. We end our toxic water, we end toxic energy, and we end toxic medicine. Your medicine shouldn't make you sick. Okay, in 25 years, we repurpose our militaries. I am not saying that we end the military. I am saying that we need to repurpose that military away from death toward life. A very quick story. I need to find my timer here. Yeah, very, very quick story. Back in 2008, in the Indian Ocean tsunami, when all of the countries around the Indian Ocean got hammered by the tsunami, the USS Lincoln, an aircraft carrier, happened to be in that region. And what they did, they have an aircraft carrier is huge, and they have several different kitchens inside the aircraft carrier, and they started bottling water. They have a nuclear power plant. They can clean salt water, so they started bottling water. And they started baking loaves of bread, 5,000 loaves of bread a day. Like I said, this is quite an operation. And they took their Apache helicopters, the ones that kill people, and they took out all the gun racks and the bomb racks, and they built these life racks and they went and they literally bombed Thailand with bread and water. Now, what happens when we do things like that on purpose? They just happen to have enough water. They happen to have enough food to make the bread. What would happen if we start, instead of thinking about how do we build the next generation thing that's going to be killing everybody? What happens when we start the process of using our militaries to distribute life, to fill in the gaps as our societies go from toxicity to health? In 30 years, our consciousness starts to really evolve. We really start using our latent powers. We start recognizing that there's no differences between us humans and those humans. There's no differences between us and all of the other beings that live on our planet, that we start the process of becoming one. We end, in 40 years, we end the notion of nation states. And um, I was in Europe as the European Union started to take hold. I tell a story in the book about the first time I went from, I drove from France to, no, I'm sorry, from Germany to France. Got stopped at the border, see your passport, see your visa. Do you have fruits and vegetables? Are you, the 5-minute grill, and then I could get into France. The third time I went from Germany to France, I hit the border at 50 miles an hour and never slowed down, because the idea of a border between these two countries that were at war just a half a century ago was absurd. We get rid of all of our nation states. They become quaint things that we hold our cultures, and this is over here we speak this language now, etc. But all the things of separating ourselves from other human beings goes away. In 50 years, we end violence, all violence against other human beings, all violence against all other beings. We right now, as human beings, the majority of the resources of the world right now on our watch is spent separating ourselves from other human beings. Why don't we change that? In 60 years, our planet begins to return to a dynamic equilibrium. It doesn't take that much. In 75 years, we see the last of the corporations and the ascendancy of holonic relationships. That our relationships, our industrial relationships, our growing relationships, all of these should not be, how can I make more money? Should not be, what is our, how can I make a killing in the market? I already have all the money in the world. How do I get more? It should be, how can we make our communities stronger? How can we make the community of all beings, and that includes all of the other beings that are living with us right now, how do we make that healthier? How do we get people to be happier? Not as an individual saying he, ha, ha, but as a group. And in 100 years, we end money. We begin holonic colony wealth. Instead of saying I'm living in a community, gated or otherwise, I live in a colony. And that colony is our primary source of our health. If the colony isn't whole, if the colony isn't healthy, then how in the world could I be healthy? And within 150 years, we end what I call breaker economics, the economics of exclusivity. Okay, folks, I told you we're going to stop there. This thing goes on and on and on and on, but we're going to stop right there. Whoops. Just in what you saw, you should be either jazzed, or is this guy out of his mind? Or everybody knows our most important duty is to help Jeff Bezos go from the second wealthiest person on the planet to the first. How do we do this? Or Do you think somewhere in here there's some seeds? Um, right now, I am putting in our chat box um, the your link to get to that document. You're gonna open the document. I think I have one for the screen too. Let's see here. Um, I don't. Try to. Um, best of intentions. So, so open the document. Next Wednesday, we're going to start pulling through some of the things that are in there. Do you think I've already gotten a couple of comments saying, "Oh, this is too far back. We need to have this as a primary goal." I've seen some people say this it isn't realistic to say that we can repurpose the military. Other people say, I'm putting this out to stimulate our conversation. And remember, I'm also putting out the challenge, and the challenge is that you will take this, give this to 20 up to 20 people. I don't want you putting this on your feed. I don't want you kind of scattering the seed to the wind. It's not ready for that right now. It's ready for some thoughtful discourse. So I see that I sort of see that there are some comments coming in right now. We'll get to those and all the other ones that we can get to next um, next Wednesday. Well, this coming Wednesday. And can't believe I just kind of went blah 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 that long. Thank you. Thank you for participating in this experiment in however you wish to do so. May all beings be well. May all beings be secure. And may all beings be happy. Thank you and bye.